Tony D, Little Jones asleep on the couch, and this is a screenwriter's take on Shut In. Shut In from the Daily Wire. It's a movie they shot, if you haven't seen it. It is a low-budget movie that premiered last night at 9 p.m. Online on YouTube, and now you can only see it on the Daily Wire if you get a subscription. It stars Rainey Qualley as Jessica, the main character, who was really great. She was really great in this. So was the little girl who played Lainey, the daughter, Luciana Vandette, and Jake Horowitz as the ex-husband. Ben Shapiro, one of the executive producers, written by, who was the writer on this? Melanie Toast, and directed by DJ Caruso. So, as always, let me give you my non-spoiler review and then my spoiler reviews, and we'll drill down into the plot and whatnot. So this is Jessica. She is a recovering drug addict. She has two kids. Lainey is about, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, and a little baby who still can't walk yet. And she's living in this old southern house, but she has to leave because she can't afford to live here anymore. Her mother left her the house, and but she can't pay the taxes on it, is what she says in the film. So she's leaving. She's going to move to Texas with her aunt, and she's about to pack up when she accidentally shuts herself in the pantry. Now, it's one of these old style pantries. She uses a brick to keep it open, and of course she accidentally gets herself shut in there after, you know, she put the brick, but the brick, she'd been doing it so long, the brick wore at the bottom of the door, and then it slides shut on her unexpectedly. So she's stuck in, and then she has to invite her ex-husband and his friend in to let her out of the pantry. Her ex-husband and his friend are still drug addicts. They're addicted to meth. And then it's about, they get mad at her and lock her in the pantry. So she spends most of the movie in the pantry. And I don't want to give any more away from that, but it's about redemption. It's about her taking back her kids, taking back her life, and overcoming this horrible ordeal and pulling it all together at the end. So it's a really positive message at the end. It was a little grueling in the middle, I gotta say, but I think it was designed to be that way. Yeah, this is his child molester buddy, and this is his her ex on the right there. You know, it's just a good low budgeter. This is Lainey outside the door. She's trying to get out, doing everything she can. She gets injured at one point. She's got her hand against the door, and he's nailing boards on it. And man, it gets her hand, and oh, that's the worst scene. That's the worst scene for me. All right, so overall, I'll say this is a really good movie. I enjoyed it. I have a couple of nitpicky problems with it. Nothing major. Some people call it right-wing Hollywood or right-wing propaganda or whatever, and I just don't see it. I don't see any right-wing propaganda here. I just see, like, normal stuff. Normal, organic stuff. Everything that, just about everything in this movie that happened was pretty organic. So, all right. So that concludes the non-spoiler review. I did tell you a little, but I don't think anything you wouldn't have seen in the trailer. Now, let's get into the spoiler review. So if you want to see it, you got to go to the Daily Wire, get a subscription. You can see that, and I think they have at least 1 or 2 other movies for the month. If I were going to do it, I would get the subscription for a month and binge watch what I wanted, and then, you know, if I didn't have anything else to watch, I might step out of it. But I think it was pretty decent. It was on Amazon to rent for $5, but it was tough to find. I think it's still around somewhere. I just had trouble finding it. Or maybe it's only in the Daily Wire for a while. I think eventually it'll be on Amazon. I don't know. Who knows? But I would give it a thumbs up. I think it was pretty intense. Had a lot of good moments in it. It uses... It's a classic using very little to make a lot. You know? And it's all about protecting the kids at the end of the day. She's doing this for her kids. So this is the pantry here. So first act, she is getting ready to leave to move to Texas. She locks herself in the pantry by accident. That's kind of a screw up. The ex comes in the house with his creepy friend and lets her out at first, but then they get into an argument. Basically, the old "you think you're better than me" argument. So he locks her in the pantry again. This time he gives her a wad of meth, and he nails boards over the door. That's when she gets hurt, and she's stuck in there. She has Lainey run upstairs with the brother and lock herself in a room, which she successfully does. And then it's about her trying to get out. So then later, the two guys leave to go get high or whatever, and then it's about her trying to get out of the room, right? So she's trying to get out, Finally, she gets Lainey. Lainey's really good because she's a little kid, but she kind of knows some stuff, but not enough to really be all that helpful. So she looks for her phone and can't find it because they stole it, the junkies. So eventually she gets a screwdriver that was left behind, and she starts digging in the floor, which I don't know. I think that was a dumb move. I think the floor was the wrong way to go. I would have gone for the door, although the door, now that I look at it, is pretty thick. But she starts digging at the floor, and she gets a decent sized hole in the floor, like enough to put her leg through. But I don't know if that was ever a really viable option. It didn't feel like one in the movie, but I understand where they were going for. She was digging down the whole time. And there's some symbolism in that. In the pantry, there is a crucifix with a Jesus on it, and she's like, she's got a hole in her hand, and it's a whole stigmata thing, right? And I think at some point she hurts her hand again. Anyhow, she goes through all this trial and tribulation in the pantry. She discovers her mother's apple butter that's been left behind. She feeds it to the kids because they have no other food at this point. She left it all outside in the car because she was about to leave. So she ends up, stuck in there, and she's about maybe halfway out when the creepy guy comes back, of course. Lainey locks herself in, and then the guy is like teasing her, and you hear him go upstairs, and then the camera from inside the room follows the noise, which was a good effect. And then she says, "Oh, I've got the meth. I'll give it to you, if you just leave." And of course, the guy's a junkie. You can't trust a junkie. And she knows that, being an ex-junkie. So she convinces him, "Oh no, I'm hurt. I can't hand you the drugs. I can't throw the drugs under the door." So he puts his hand underneath, and she stabs him through the hand and essentially nails him to the floor. Because she takes a brick and then pounds it into the floor. And then she refuses to remove it. And then finally Lainey comes downstairs, and the guy grabs her, and she's screaming for Lainey to run away. And then he threatens to kill her, and then Jessica lights the guy on fire, right? So that was a pretty good scene. So he basically dies at that point because he never gets up again. You were expecting in a regular movie, like a guy like that, he'll get up again. Like, she pulls the thing out of his hand to use a screwdriver when she discovers that the ceiling is dripping with water and is soft and she could dig through. And it's kind of symbolic in that way. See, she was trying to go down, 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 but really she needed to go up and needed to look up. It's an interesting scene where she also finds the money in the Bible, right? So that's very symbolic. She finds the money in the Bible. She finds what she needs in the Bible, is the symbology there. And that worked. It was organic because obviously her mother was religious. She's trying to get her life back together. And she turns to, she was initially going to throw out the Bible with all that money in it. And then when she picks up the Bible again, realizes, oh my God, it's full of hundreds of dollars. And she would have had the money to keep the house, right? She also discovers the recipe for apple butter, which turns out to be key at the end of all this. So then she escapes through the roof, but then, of course, the husband comes back, and finally the guy wakes up, right? Creepy guy wakes up. He's not dead, and then he grabs the little girl. The father shows up, and, you know, he's pretty bad, but he's not that bad, and he ends up killing the guy and saving the kids. She tries to leave. He still won't let her leave. He still won't take the money, which I found weird. I think a junkie would have just taken the money and run, but... So he insists, no, you're not better than me. You're going to get high with me, right? So she has to agree, and then she spikes his apple butter sandwich with his own drugs. So when he gets high, he's basically taken a triple dose, and he ODs and dies. But she has to wait it out. And so there's a big fight as she's waiting for him to OD. And then she pushes him out the window, and then that's the end. Then there's this dramatic transformation, right? And then the final shot is that the secret to Nana's apple butter is the rotten apples. Like, she doesn't use the rotten apples, but the best apples to use for the apple butter is to cut out the rotten spots and use the rest of it, which is what she did. And now she's making apple butter. Now she has money to save the house, and now she doesn't have to leave, which is good for a lot of reasons. Number one, from a narrative sense, it's good because it's like she saved her Nana's house, and she is where she belongs. From you know, a production sense, they don't have to have another big scene in Texas where she arrives, right? She doesn't need any more cast members. I mean, basically, we only had Jessica, the daughter, the baby, and the two guys, and that's it. That's the only people in this. Everybody else is on the phone. So, great use of low budget to make this work. Here are my, and these are nitpicky problems. The stigmata thing is a little heavy, but I get it. You know, I think it was, you know, a coincidence that her hand happened to be in the spot the nail comes through. But whatever. I mean, that's part of the movie. She's injured. She's doing this all injured, pretty injured, and she's, you know, worried about an infection and whatnot. The other thing I'll say is at the end of the movie, after she kills her ex-husband, like, they don't explain what she does after that, right? Does she just bury the bodies and pretend like they were never there? Or does she call the cops and they take the bodies away and she has a big explanation and there's some sort of... I don't know. I like to think she just buried the bodies. You know? I like to think she just said, screw it. And just dragged the bodies out into the field, emptied their pockets of anything valuable, and just buried them 6 feet deep and said, that's it. That's it. They're done. Nobody will ever find them. Because who the hell would look for them, right? She'd be the only one looking for her ex, and the other guy... I mean, they were both total scumbags. Nobody would care. Nobody would care. But then again, if she did call the police, they both technically OD'd. Well, the husband OD'd, and the husband shot the other guy. So technically she'd be fine. So I guess she could call the police. But, you know, in this sort of southern town out in the middle of nowhere, I'd like to think she just buried them and called it a day and just went on with her life. And I liked the fact that she got the money at the end and was able to save the house. I mean, it was a very positive message. She's very tempted to take the drugs. She's a recovering addict, but she tries super hard not to take them and doesn't because she wants to be there for her kids and wants to get clean. She's clean finally, and, you know, she was sick and she feels bad about that. You know, it was nice to see a character, you know, get clean and stay clean. Not like falter or whatever, because a lot of addicts do. A lot of addicts, you know, they get clean and then they fall off. Even one of the you know, the creepy guy was like, yeah, I got clean for a while, but now, you know, now I'm back. You know, it was a solid low budget actioner. I was on board the whole time. I really enjoyed it because the characters play at the height of their intelligence. There's no stupidity here. You know, you can argue that the guy putting his hand under the door was kind of stupid, but he was a junkie. And junkies do anything for drugs. So you pretty much talk him into anything. But then after that, boy, he was out to kill people. You know, Jessica was smart the whole time, other than maybe going through the floor. But yeah, I guess I could see that door being too thick to dig through. It is a pretty thick door. At first I thought, oh man, you got to go through the door. But then I remembered how heavy it was. And just looking at that shot of it, yeah, it would be pretty hard to dig through. Maybe you could hack your way through after a while. But other than that, I don't really have a problem. I mean, Lainey was really good. For a kid that young, I thought she was really believable as a kid. Because she was a mixture of both helpfulness and not helpfulness. You know, at one point she just starts crying. And it's just like, well, I pushed her too far, but like the mother has no choice. At one point she drops the baby, and the mother's, there's nothing she could do. She's trapped in the pantry. About the only thing I thought was, you know, man, you got to get that pantry fixed. Like that, I was saying that through the whole thing. Like, I would be absolutely paranoid of being trapped in the pantry if I owned this house, right? I would be putting double blockers, you know. I would be putting redundant blockers to keep this door open or whatever. Or I would have somehow disarmed the lock so it couldn't lock, you know. But, I mean, that was the whole point of the movie, right? She gets shut in. I don't like the title that much because there is a fairly recent movie, 2016, with Naomi Watts called Shut In, which is a sort of a different implication. And I think there was another movie like in 2008 that's called Shut In, I want to say. Let me check over at the IMDb. I think there was a couple movies. I mean, it's kind of a common name. No, I guess it was just that one. Yeah, the 2015 movie is AKA Intruders. This says 46 titles with the word shut in it. I guess it was with the word shut in the description, but you know, there is definitely that Naomi Watts movie. That one happened again, shot in 2016. That was too soon. Like if it had been, you know, 20 years ago or more, yeah, you could reuse the name, I guess. But I think you probably needed a better name. I don't know what you would have called it. You know, something similar. Trapped, locked in, whatever. But, you know, just so you could avoid shut in. Because shut in also implies a shut in. Like The Shut In. I think there's a movie called The Shut In. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about. It's about somebody who just, they're, you know, afraid to go outside and they just shut themselves off from the world. So, I mean, because it's exclusively on the Daily Wire's site and it was exclusively premiered last night, yeah, I get it. It could work, but, you know, maybe you'd call it DJ Caruso's Shut In. Just to give it a little bit of difference. And then you'd put DJ Caruso's in really tiny print, but everybody would just call it Shut In. You know, I don't know. But I did really like the redemption arc. I really liked this actress's performance. I thought she was really solid. She kept me watching it. I believed her. I believed that she was a recovering junkie. The husband was okay. He wasn't as good, but he was all right. And the daughter was spot on. So, great. We want to see more movies like this, Ben Shapiro and the rest of the Daily Wire. I hope Hollywood moves to Nashville. I think that's where they're based, right? Nashville or Memphis, somewhere in Tennessee. I think this could really work. I think if you keep making movies like this, people will move. Now, don't go too far. Don't go too heavy with the religious stuff. This was nice and light. It was organic, made sense. She had a bit of a southern drawl. People are more religious there. Totally believable. Totally believable. It wasn't like beat me over the head with religiosity, but it was there. So, totally fine with that. If it had been heavier than that, I would have been annoyed, but no. Perfect amount, just enough to further the narrative. That's what it's really about. It's always about furthering your narrative. If you're furthering your narrative and you're making a good narrative, you're exploring, you're showing stuff about the characters, you're heading towards the ending. Good job. So that's it. Big thumbs up from me on Shut In. Check it out over at the Daily Wire if you can, or if it comes to streaming. I don't know if it ever will. Probably be exclusive on the Daily Wire, I guess. And that's it for me, Tony D. And Little Joan is on the couch. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more bass takes. We got a news blast and a Hollywoke hot take today. Check us out on the Webcomic Factory, and we'll see you tomorrow.